Gobble gobble. Let's dive into these running backs. Tier 1, Tier 2, we don't need to talk about them. You know to start them. Really don't necessarily think we need to start talking about these guys until maybe we go down to Tier 3 here with Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs very easily can make an argument to be a Tier 2 back. I mean, I know y'all were screaming at me earlier this season, Mason, why do you keep ranking Gibbs so high? Blah, 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 blah. Laughable. You stand by the dude that is one of the most dynamic running backs in the NFL that is going to continue to put up monstrous efficiency marks, not only based off his own athleticism, not only based off his own profile, but also the offensive line that he is running behind. Now, bad news with Gibbs is the reason I was so damn high on him this season, not only the projections he had with the Lions, but also we thought that you were going to have a massive role as a receiver. And honestly, the receiving role's a lot lower than what you have with like Bijan, Achane, Kamara. So maybe that's a little bit frustrating, but frankly, it doesn't matter. The Lions are the best offense in the NFL regardless. And if David Montgomery were to have been out on Thursday, Jahmyr Gibbs would jump up to the same tier as Barkley. Like if he had no Montgomery, Gibbs is Tier 1, but we expect Montgomery to play on Thursday. CMC, I initially thought that we were going to have Brock Purdy good to go. But what we actually found with sportsbook projections this week is an implied team total of 19 points where the Niners are about touchdown dogs to Buffalo. So what that tells me is Kyle Shanahan's a damn liar. Brock Purdy's not playing this week. And if Brock Purdy's not playing this week, even if CMC is going to have 100% of the opportunities in this backfield, it's going to be a much worse offense where you have to lower expectations. Going over to Kyren Williams, there's the good and the bad. The good is he is one of the only 3 running backs in the NFL that is legitimately a true workhorse, that is going to see every single touch in his own backfield. Now, the bad is you've had back-to-back weeks with legitimately nothing as a receiver. And at the same time, the touchdowns haven't really been there since you've had the emergence of Kupp and Puka back into this offense. Now, maybe you would think, oh, well, if you have Kupp and Puka back in, they'll have more trips to the red zone. More trips to the red zone equals more TD opportunities for Kyren Williams, or at least that's what I would have thought. But no, what it's been is, oh, you have Kupp and Puka back. So when we're inside the 5-yard line, hey, Stafford, throw it. One of these guys will be open, and it's been working for them. Currently, the Rams have an implied team total of almost 26 points. So sportsbooks are projecting them to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the league this week. Breece Hall will be in a much worse offense. The positive that you have with Breece in comparison is you've had one game with fewer than 4 targets this season. And in that one game with fewer than 4 targets, he had 3. That's been a season low. So the receiving usage is absolutely through the roof, which is saving him in a full PPR format. But you do have an implied team total of only about 19.5 points. So maybe you lower expectations with the outside chance that we don't have Rodgers. Going over to Chase Brown. Chase Brown, since you've had no Zach Moss, is playing 80% of the snaps in this Cincy offense. 80% in week 9, 87% in week 10, and 83% in week 11. I think you have to rank Chase Brown until you see otherwise, as if he is a 3-down workhorse in one of the best offenses in the league. Now, that's not 100% a guaranteed statement through the rest of the season here. There's an outside chance that they do decide to work in a second running back and turn it into a little bit more of a running back by committee, but we haven't seen it yet, so I think you have to give Chase Brown every benefit of the doubt. And then another guy that obviously we were extremely high on this season was Josh Jacobs, 3-down running back in a great offense, coming off the hat trick against San Francisco with the 28 fantasy points. Hell, if you look at the last 5 games that you've had from Jacobs, 4 of them you've gotten 20 or more points. Josh Jacobs is only giving you fewer than 10 points in a single game this season. And you are a pretty heavy favorite over the Miami Dolphins here. Going over to James Cook. James Cook is a running back that's super simple. He's in one of the best offenses in the league. Not only is he in one of the best offenses in the league, but you have the red zone role. Plus, you have some usage as a receiver. So you just have all the high volume or high value opportunities in Buffalo. And you are a 7-point favorite over the Niners, where Jacobs just scored 3 touchdowns. David Montgomery will be our next option. Obviously, with David Montgomery, he plays on Thursday, and you are just an absolute massive favorite here over the Chicago Bears. Favored by 10 points. We already know the Lions have the best offensive line. They have the best offense in the NFL. And Montgomery has just been an absolute lock to score a touchdown pretty much every single week. I mean, you are averaging 1 touchdown a game for David Montgomery this season. Going over to Kenneth Walker. With Walker, they are about 3-point favorites, 2.5-point favorites here over the New York Jets. He's currently higher, lower, 63.5 rushing yards on Underdog. If you actually look at how many times he has hit that so far this season, it's only been 4 in comparison to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times where he has gone with the lower. But if you're ever hitting it for Walker, it's in the game environment in which the Seahawks do win. So I actually probably would stay away from that. And similar to what we see with some of these other running backs near the top of these ranks, you actually do have a safe floor when it comes to the receiving usage. Now, with Isaiah Pacheco, obviously we had ranked him as if he was going to play last week, and the man did not, which was super frustrating. But this week, I think that he should be good to go. He's been practicing for a couple weeks now. You get in a full practice on Tuesday, and right now you actually do have the Chiefs projecting to be a top 3 offense in the NFL with total points scored, and there's almost a 2-touchdown spread against the Las Vegas Raiders here. This is by far and away the largest spread of any game in the NFL this week. So if Pacheco is good to go, 100% you play Isaiah Pacheco. Now, I understand everybody is super frustrated with Jonathan Taylor. Taylor has been very disappointing, especially this past week where he had a brutal matchup against the Detroit Lions. We had a lot of people in the live chat, in the comment section, asking if they could bench Jonathan Taylor. My statement was, no, yes, it's a really bad matchup, but you still got to play the guy even if you lower expectations. And he scores 3.5 fantasy points. So I apologize. I am sorry. But the reason why I still view him as a must-start option every single week is if you look at the underlying snaps, Jonathan Taylor plays 96% of the snaps this past week in Indianapolis. It's him, Kyron Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley as the true 3-down workhorses that won't let another running back in their backfield touch the ball. Now, of course, with Taylor, out of these guys, he is in the worst offense. And also with Jonathan Taylor, he has the worst receiving usage. A-Rich is not going to check it down. A-Rich will steal rushing touchdowns. So it's been very frustrating with Taylor, but this is the best spot for him you can find. You're going up against the New England Patriots. You're favored by about 3 points in this game. So this may actually be one where the Indianapolis Colts can run the ball. Right now, if you look at his underdog projection, he's currently higher, lower, 83.5 rushing yards. Now, if you really hate Jonathan Taylor, you can go take lower than 83.5 rushing yards. I would warn you, probably want to stay away from that given this game environment. But if you wanted it, you can find the link in the description in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy will get you a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, you'll be getting a free Jordan Love pick, more than less than half a total yard, for the game on Thursday. And you'll be getting a free team review in the live stream that we are doing every single night. Now, going over to our next running back with Aaron Jones. It was maybe a little bit concerning 2 weeks ago against Tennessee when Cam Akers came in and he saw double-digit touches. Cam Akers did see a receiving touchdown as well. But I think after this game against the Bears, we can safely say that you just had Aaron Jones begged up in week 10, that lingered into week 11. Aaron Jones is going to have the vast majority of opportunities in this backfield. He's had 26 opportunities this past week against Chicago. And this matchup against the Cardinals, they are favored by about 3 points. Going over to Chuba Hubbard, I thought he was going to disappoint against the Chiefs. He scores 15 points. The man comes through in a big-time way. And the biggest thing to point out is I thought Jonathan Brooks was going to come in and have a receiving workload given how good Jonathan Brooks is at pass protection. And no, Chuba Hubbard still plays the third down role. Chuba Hubbard still plays every freaking snap. Hubbard sees 89% of the snaps here against the Chiefs. That is a season high. So Jonathan Brooks comes in and Chuba Hubbard sees a season high with this snap rate. You're going up against Tampa. This should be a very high scoring game environment. Now, of course, you do have the Carolina Panthers projected to lose pretty heavily here. So probably the rushing attempts may be a little bit neutralized. And there is a small possibility. I don't even want to say anything about Brooks. Obviously, Brooks was an absolute zero this past week. Going over and looking at James Conner, this is a running back that I will be starting, and I will be losing my mind when he does nothing in week 12. Against Seattle, you got 8 rushing yards off of 7 carries. You have other running backs in this backfield touching the ball now. Now, over the past 2 games, James Conner has saved his day with the receiving usage. You've had 120 receiving yards and 10 receptions over the past 2 weeks. Realistically speaking, going into the future, is this something that we can consistently expect to be there for James Conner? Probably not. I really hope it is. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough matchup going up against Minnesota where the usage is trending in the wrong direction. Now, Bucky Irving obviously is trending in the right direction. You also have a perfect matchup going up against the Carolina Panthers, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are favored by about 6 points and project out to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL this week. Bucky Irving, over the past 4 games played, has a great role as a receiver, averaging almost 5 targets a game. And as a rusher, he's been incredibly efficient. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games this season with 5 or more yards per carry. And you have 1, 2, 3 games this season with fewer than 4 yards a carry. He's been much more efficient than Rachaad White. He sees a second highest career amount of snaps this past week with 52% against the New York Giants. And I know a lot of people are going to be screaming at us that we have Bucky Irving even too low in these rankings this week. My thing and why we can't rank him over like the Kenneth Walkers of the world is he had 4 rushing touchdowns for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a week ago against the Giants. And in an offense that had 4 rushing touchdowns, Bucky Irving had 1 of them. So he's definitely still in the committee, but he looks to be in a he's a very efficient running back in a committee in a good offense. I'm going over to Tony Pollard. With Pollard, he can move in these rankings when we get news about Tajee Spears. If you have no Tajee Spears, I'm going to let you know Pollard probably jumps to the top of this tier. Because this past week, Pollard saw 94% of the snaps and scored 22 points against the Houston Texans. You go and look at the 3 previous weeks you had with no Spears. Pollard had 86%, 82%, and 89% of this backfield. So again, going back to like the true 3-down workhorses, looking at guys such as Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Jonathan Taylor, the running backs that are seeing legitimately every single snap and every single touch in their respective backfields, Pollard without Spears jumps into that range. Now, obviously, he's not going to score as many points. He's not as good, and he's in a crappy offense. But, I mean, from usage perspective, he's phenomenal when you have no Spears. It's just, if Spears plays this week, you have to lower expectations. With Tracy, y'all know I'm not a big Tracy guy. Just want to reiterate, yeah, he's definitely the guy in New York. But at the same time, it's a garbage offense, and you don't really have much of a receiving role. Now, definitely this past week against the Bucs, it was the best that Tracy's been as a receiver pretty much all season. His second highest game in his career in terms of his receiving yards. Going over to DeAndre Swift, I think I'm going to be stuck playing this guy. Please let me know in the comment section, should I start DeAndre Swift or Ramondre Stevenson this week? Swift and the Bears have an implied team total of 19.5 points against the Detroit Lions. It's horrendous. It's hideous. It's whatever the hell you want to call it. With Swift, you also have Roschon Johnson stealing rushing touchdowns at the goal line. With Swift, you also have Roschon Johnson taking snaps on 3rd downs. It's a horrible matchup against Detroit. I'm freaking tired of this, but it is what it is. I probably have to play him myself. Brian Robinson, I have no idea how to rank until we actually get some confirmation with the injury here. Ramondre Stevenson, I'm freaking tired of as well. I may end up having to play him. Let me know if I should play Stevenson or Swift. With Stevenson, just the floor is so damn low. It's so low. You get the 3.5 fantasy points this past week. Now, the bonus that you have with Stevenson, if you were to look to play him this week, is it's a good matchup going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Not only is it a good matchup going up against the Colts, but at the same time, you do have an implied team total of 20 points here for this Pats offense, which I believe is the highest I've seen the Patriots project out all season at this point. Now, going over to Gus Edwards, you have no J.K. Dobbins this week, or at least obviously you can tell how I'm expecting this to play out. I think if Dobbins misses, Edwards is going to see the vast majority of the opportunities. But also, Gus Edwards this season has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games with fewer than 4 yards per carry, or fewer than 3.5 yards per carry. Super inefficient running back that has had 2 receiving yards all season. So no usage as a receiver whatsoever and very inefficient. Honestly, I think I'd even move Gus Edwards behind Rachaad White. We go ahead and we look at Rachaad White. Yeah, you only have 1 target this past week, but before that, you pretty much have the vast majority of usage as a receiver. Obviously, you're going in the wrong direction here where it looks like Bucky's the guy taking more of the backfield. But with that being said, you've had double-digit fantasy points every game over the past 5. Rico Dowdle, this is actually the highest we've ever seen a Cooper Rush offense project out. You have an implied team total here of almost 21 points, which is a pretty good spot to be in. But at the same time, I don't know. You had 22 opportunities last week, and you had 11 fantasy points with them. Najee Harris, you're going to have to deal with Jaylen Warren stealing touches. I mean, freaking sucks, but this is what we were talking about when we were saying to sell high at Najee back in week 6, 7, when you had those big touchdown performances. And now it looks like it's just a tough spot with tough matchups. And it's clearly a running back by committee. He only played 39% of the snaps this past week. Nick Chubb up at 66% of the snaps against Pittsburgh. Nick Chubb also sees multiple rushing touchdowns. But the thing is, the Browns project out to be one of the worst offenses in the NFL again this week. You have a tough matchup against Denver. And Nick Chubb this season has a total of 7 receiving yards. So no receiving usage. You're a touchdown or bust running back in a bad offense and a bad matchup. Javonte Williams gave you a whopping -2 rushing yards this past week. Javonte Williams over the past 3 weeks now is sitting here with 2, 18, and 2 fantasy points. I have no idea how the hell you could project this guy out. I mean, you know how many snaps he's going to be playing. Pretty much every single game this season. He's played anywhere from 50 to 60% of the snaps. Travis Etienne, 1, we need to monitor if Tank Bigsby's going to play. 2, we need to monitor if Travis Etienne's going to play. Obviously, I'm going to be updating these rankings throughout the entire week, every single day on flogfantasy.com. I'll be live streaming every single night, giving you all updates. And then we have some of the committee backs that maybe you can start, hope for a touchdown. Guys like Austin Eckler, Jaylen Warren, and Kareem Hunt. But we don't even know the availability of Eckler or Brian Robinson at this point. So obviously that will be something we have to update as the week goes on. But again, I really do appreciate you. Really do hope we were able to help you out. And if you wanted to check out any of those picks, if you want to scream at me, Mason, you're way too high on Jonathan Taylor, you can go take the fewer than 83.5 rushing yards on Jonathan Taylor this week. If you use promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, at the same time, you're going to be getting a free Jordan Love pick, more than less than half a total yard for the Thanksgiving game. And you're going to be getting a free team review in the live stream we're doing every night. But I think that's all I got for you. Really appreciate you and really hope we get to see you out with the live stream later today.